Thank you guys. I want to take you through this small video about Python in Linux and some other projects that I've done using Python. Okay, my name is Victor, and as you can see on my right hand screen, it has displayed my name there. I'm a data analyst, I'm a data scientist, and also data engineering. I have some skills that I've developed since the past years, and I want to share out with fellow tech, all those who are still learning, so that we can share our ideas together. Linux is a good operating system, and I've just decided to use it because it makes me feel that I'm in the world of tech based on its commands and its environment. Also, I'm also good in Windows, and I'm also good in Mac and even Unix operating systems. So welcome very warmly, because tech is what I love doing. I'm also a freelancer, and that's how I earn my living in freelancing, and also using my skills in the tech world. I want to go through a simple notebook here that I created on how to connect a database with a notebook. So this is my command. My command line is here, my terminal. So this is my terminal. So I want to go to that notebook straight away. My home folder is called Data Engineer, and my machine is called, as you can see, my machine is called Data Engineer HP ProBook 6475B. Sorry for my machine is too old, but it's giving the best service. So when we want to go to that notebook, I simply go to a folder I named Jupyter, and that is a virtual environment folder that I created using my Linux computer here. So I'm using this command called source, then Jupyter, Jupyter. Then you go to a folder called bin. Then I activate that virtual environment. Now I've activated a virtual environment named Jupyter. So what is a virtual environment in Python? Python is a good programming language that helps so many people nowadays in programming, even in artificial intelligence, in machine learning, in data science, in data analysis, even in database management. We can also incorporate Python. So Python has very good features. So before you create a project in Python, you need to create what is called a virtual environment. Let me just give you a simple command for creating a virtual environment. Let me just open a new terminal. This is my new terminal. Now this is how you create a virtual environment in Python. So you just, I'm using Python 3. Yes, so I'm just going to type Python 3 space, and then -m, and then I just say then. I call it Venv because that's my simple skill for remembering. Venv, and then now I give the folder name. So for example, maybe I want to call the project students progress. Students progress. Now these are full command line for creating a virtual environment in Python. So once I press enter, Python is creating for me a virtual environment folder inside the home folder. That is when I'm using Linux. Now, once it is done, Python is going to assume that inside that folder, that is my working environment. That is all that I'll place my libraries. That is all that I place my files. That is where I'll place my images. Suppose I'm working with the web development framework for Python, like Flask, like Streamlit, name it. So my virtual environment have been created. Now, suppose I want to see the contents in my virtual environment. I'll just say ls. No, sorry. We need to go inside that file. We need to activate that virtual environment. Sorry guys. So how do we activate the virtual environment folder or project that we've created, student progress? Now, this is the command you type. You'll say source. Source is just a Linux command for locating directories, where directories are. So we say source, and then we say student progress, and you have to be very careful in your naming. You have to remember all your naming practices so that it doesn't mess you up. Students progress. Then we give it a bin. Bin is a folder created by Python inside student progress, inside the virtual environment. Then we give it a command there, which is also resides in the same folder, activate. Activate, it activates now the virtual environment folder called students progress. Now, student is a directory. Okay, there is a problem. Now our virtual environment has been named students. It has not picked progress. I think that's something I'll work on later on. So let's do it again. Source, now with the name students only. Source students. Source students. We go to that directory called bin. Then we go to a command called activate. Wow, good, cool. Now you can see students virtual environment folder has been created. When you look at this window and this window here, you can see the virtual environment folder is placed at the far left side of the screen, meaning it's now our environment. You can see even students also is placed at the far left side of the screen. Now this is where now at the command where the command line is blinking. That is where now you place your commands. You give Python commands. Now any command that you give, Python is ready to locate commands, because you are in a virtual environment where Python understands all the concepts of your project. Now this is where now you can start typing your commands. Like for example, I want to say that I want to install a library, a Python library called Prophet for forecasting or for predicting future analysis in machine learning. This is how I install Prophet in Python under virtual environment students. Now I say pip install Prophet. Pip install Prophet. Now I'm installing a Prophet. Now pip is just telling Python there's a library in Python called Py. I think it is Py something. Then there's now the command install. Then now the library itself. Now when you press enter, Python is going to install Prophet. You can see it is collecting Prophet. Now this library is going to be installed, to be stored in a folder called libraries inside students virtual environment. So any library or any file that you will install or you will create, it will be stored in this student folder, so that when I am finished with doing a project called students, and I was now able to, I'm now able to carry the project to a different environment, or install it in a different environment. Now we find that Python will be able to read all the libraries because they're in one what? They're in one environment. So there is no external environment that Python will be struggling to do what? To find. Now you can see Prophet has been successfully installed. Wow, it's still installing Python. Still installing Python Prophet. Prophet is being installed. You can see there are quite a number of libraries here that Prophet has worked with. So Prophet has worked with so many libraries. You can see Pillow is there. We can see NumPy. We can see QEsolver. We can see Matplotlib. We can see Holidays. We can see the Prophet it himself. Let me call him himself, but it's not a human being. This is a library. He is not a human being. This is a Python library. They decided to name it Prophet because for predicting. We can see pandas for manipulating data. We can see 6. We can see 6 for. We can see TQDM for reviews. Reviews analysis. Yeah, we can see so many libraries that has come with Prophet. So that is how a library is being installed inside a folder under a virtual environment. Cool. Now allow me to close this window. Back to our main window, where now we are working on Jupyter. Now Jupyter, I decided to name it Jupyter because I wanted to collect all my libraries that I want to use in this folder, so that I don't find it difficult to reinstall the library again. So cd change directory to Jupyter. Jupyter. Yeah, so I've changed directory to Jupyter. If I want to see the contents, ls. Now you can see I have the bin. Now this is the bin we were. You remember when we were creating the virtual environment, we said source students, and then we gave it the root to the folder. The folder is called bin. Now the bin contains all the binary files that have been compressed together in Python, that Python uses to do what? To run or to operate, to make you understand better the Python environment concept. We also have library. We also have library 64. Now, library 64 is where the virtual environment resides all the libraries that we create. Then that we install. Sorry, we have pynv, pynv.config or .configuration, whichever way you can say it. It's the configuration file for our virtual environment. Now, while we are here, I want to go one step backward. cd space ... That is going one step backward. Now it will bring me back to my folder data engineer. Now and then we enter. Now I've moved out of Jupyter, but here I'm still remaining with what? With Jupyter, meaning all the libraries that are installed in Jupyter are going to be reflected on whatever project I'll choose here, or whatever notebook that I'll choose here. So let me activate what we call the Jupyter notebook in Python using Linux. Now this is how we use the command to activate Jupyter notebook. So we simply write Jupyter and then notebook, and then we press enter. Now this will load the Jupyter notebook web-based application. Now Jupyter notebook web-based application gives you a window for operating all the Jupyter notebook files, whereby you can operate a file. Now you can see there it's opening. You can operate a file created under a notebook, so that it gives you the best way of manipulating your what? Seeing your data, loading a new notebook, loading a new notebook file. You can see it has taken me to, the command has given me a very smart web-based window here. Now this window, I'm running my browser using Firefox. Now this is Firefox window. Okay, so I've been brought to my tree. You can see here at the address bar here, we have the local host, we have the port. It uses port 888/tree. Now tree gives now the list of all the folders that resides in what? That resides in data engineer folder that is being used by Linux. So tech guys, you can see this is my folder. Now let me just run a quick of it. I have Airflow there. I have folder Anaconda 3, data, desktop, documents, downloads. Then now you can see the Jupyter folder itself for the virtual environment, for my libraries. You can see R. You can see so many folders. So now let's take a look. I want there's a Jupyter file I want to work on. Yes, the weather data analysis using LSTM. Let's open this file. You double click at it. It gives you another tab that is loading now the notebook project. Now this project, I visited it yesterday. You can see I visited this project yesterday. The checkpoint is yesterday. My last scene is yesterday. You can see Jupyter Notebook has a very well organized window. Then we have what we call cells. Now we have this cell. You can see this is label number 7. Then we also have this cell 5. We also have this. So Jupyter Notebook gives you line by line of cells. A cell has to contain content. It has to be run. Python has to understand as what is contained in a cell, and then you can also you can run another cell. You can run another cell, and you can run another cell, and you can run another cell, and you can even create another cell. But I'll show you that in another some other times when we get time. Now this is a notebook file that I labeled weather data analysis using LSTM, long short memory module or memory model. I'll not go into LSTM. My work here is just to explain how I came up with this notebook and how I'm running commands in this notebook. And you can see I generated a lots and lots of data. You can see I had some error there. I also had another error here. So let me just come up here. We in cell number 1 we created or we loaded what we call libraries. So you can comment here. When you want to comment, you put a hash and then say load Python libraries. Load Python libraries. Now these are Python libraries that are loaded in this cell. So other than loading Python into this cell, I also combined it with connecting the connecting string, the database connecting string for our Postgres database. Now library number one that I loaded was pandas. Now pandas, this is pandas. Pandas is a Python library that is used to manipulate data. It also has a good view of data in terms of tables, and you can also see the tables in rows and columns. You can also delete rows. It's just for data manipulation and presentation. And we also have this library called, now I loaded it as a PD. PD, I just gave it an acronym of PD, meaning pandas, a short form for pandas. Now I also loaded NumPy as NP. NumPy as NP. Now NumPy is also a Python library for just Python data calculations, and also getting Python most advanced Python data mathematical calculations. So I just gave it an acronym of NP. Then we have import scicop. I also call it scicop G2. Scicop G2, that's the shortest way I can say it. It is a Python library connected to the database that we are going to use it to see how our database is connecting using that scicop G2. We also have import OS. OS simply means operating system. Now you are telling Python that also include the contents of my operating system, or also place my folder in a certain directory, or create my folder in a certain directory. We will skip this one, Keras. This is now for deep learning, but let me just talk about it. It's just Python, advanced Python library called Keras. We import model from Keras. Now that is when we want to come up with a deep learning model using Keras. Then we have import sys. Sys simply means system. Now we have to also to import system. Python has to go and reflect also on the Linux operating system, so that we include it in our project. Now we have warnings.filter warnings. Now suppose a cell has given us a warning. It is necessary for you to, or it will be necessary for you as a student or as an expert to ignore warnings, or let the warning continue with you. Now this line basically tells Pythons to ignore warnings that are being generated when Python is running commands, or when a cell is being operated by Python. Now we also have SQL Alchemy. Now we import create engine from SQL Alchemy. SQL Alchemy is a Python command for database. Now it also it just works with well with PostgreSQL. We will see that later on. We have import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Now this library matplotlib is now the necessary library for generating plots, the graphs, and all the analysis based on visualization. Now, based on data visualization, we want to visualize your data, you have to import matplotlib. Now, matplotlib, once you install libraries like pandas, matplotlib, I guess it will be installed alongside with pandas. But in the same way, you can reinstall matplotlib library as standalone or by itself, like that. So that is all about this cell. Now, create engine. This cell, I just ran a string here called create engine. Now this string, you can see I've given a variable engine. Now the variable create engine now tells Postgres SQL database gives the user of the PostgreSQL, now gives the password of the user in PostgreSQL, now giving it now at the host of the database. The database host is now the local host. Now then we have the port. This is now the database port. Then we have now lastly our database. I just call it WeatherDB. Now let me repeat again this line of a code. Now our variable create engine, where we imported it from SQL Alchemy. Now SQL Alchemy help us to connect a database with the notebook itself. So we are working on the PostgreSQL, which is the database library or driver. Now the database driver is called the PostgreSQL. Then we have to get the database user, which is called Postgres. Then the user has to got a password, which is that one. And then we get now where is the user hosted. Now the user is hosted at localhost at port 5432, and the user created a database called WeatherDB. That is how I can explain that line. Again, now when we run that, when we run this line of a code like that, this is how you run it. There is a button at the beginning of not necessarily a button. Sorry, there is this button here. Now you click on the cell. After clicking on the cell is being activated with just a rectangle of a blue line showing that it has been selected. Now after selecting now the cell, now you run the cell using this command here, or this icon here. Now the cell, while the cell is running, you can see a star, the number. Let me show you something here, tech people. Let me show you here. You can see 5 here. This cell is not running currently, but now this cell is running. Now you can see the number that was here, 7, has turned to be a star, meaning now the commands, the lines of a code are being executed by Python. Now you can see there is a warning here that is being generated, meaning now the code is being executed. Okay, cool. Now the code has finished running. Once you see the star is not there, and the square has a number inside it here. Now the code has finished running, and all your libraries have finished running. Suppose there is an error in typing of a library name. Let me just create an error, small error here. Now let me show you. Import num as np. Let me see, or let us see whether Python can really understand whether there is a library called num. Of course, we know there is a library called numpy, but we just want to trigger an error whereby sometimes you might type something in a mistake, or sometimes your typing error can give you a serious headache, and you might not know it was your typing error. So let's run this line of a cell again. You can see it is running. You can see an error has module not found error. Now no module named num. So guys, my advice is, when you are typing these libraries, just be sharp enough, just be so precious enough, and do what? And type these libraries correctly. So let me return the Y so that we see whether Python understands numpy. You can see now the Python understands our library called numpy. So sometimes when you are working with these libraries, sometimes they are so confusing, sometimes they are so much overwhelming in the mind, and you may want to go very fast with your coding. So you just see on how you go again your line of code and rectify where you had made a mistake. Thank you on that line. So we have another line here. Now we are calling now the variable create engine here, so that it gives us now the engine what? The engine connection. So you can see Python has successfully connected to PostgreSQL SQL driver. Our database is successfully connected. You can see it has hidden the password, but it has given the local host and all that it entails. Now we have something called in connecting a notebook to an SQL database like Postgres. Postgres and MySQL has this syntax called load extension SQL, or load extension. We call this magic commands. Now magic commands just helps the notebook to understand that whatever syntax we are typing here, it is for the database. It is for the SQL database to understand. Now you can see we are loading an extension of SQL from the database Postgres. Now we start writing it by a percentage here, and then we write load extension. Ext simply means extension, and then we have the SQL. Now this one loads we are telling the notebook that we want to dive into an SQL environment in Postgres, and now we want to do what? We want to start now manipulating data or data found in the database called weather.db. Now you can see the line of a code we want to create here is now SQL now as now a magic syntax command. Now we give it a single percentage sign SQL. Then we specify our database engine, it is Postgres. We specify our user, which is Postgres. Then we give the password. Then we at localhost, we are being hosted at localhost port 5433, and then I change this port. When you look at here, it gives me port 5432, but here I wrote 5433. Now this was a mistake. Now let me correct it to 5432 because my database has been configured to port 5432. Now that is my database weather.db. Now SQL, now we are going to create the engine URL now, or the SQL URL to map our what? To map our connection. Now this is how we are going to map our connection. So once I run this, let me just run this. Create engine. Okay, now create engine has given me that, and then now load extension. Now here is when now we want to see whether we were correct. So load extension, you can see it gives me an error. There is an error there. So it says that there is no module called SQL. There is no module called SQL. So we'll work on this error to see where we have gone, where the error, the mistake is. Because of course we need to be very sharp on creating the error mistakes, and correcting error mistakes, I mean, so that we be very sharp with our programming. We be very perfect in our programming. You need to know where the mistake is. So here the mistake coming here is that we created an engine which is okay, but now load extension SQL. So we can try here, go to a terminal, and maybe even say we go to our virtual environment. We go to our virtual environment source. We said when we want to go to our virtual environment, we go to source. Jupyter bin, then activate. Okay, now let me try to do something here. Pip install pip install SQL. Pip install SQL. So let's see what Python is going to tell us here. You can see it is collecting SQL. You can see there is this library called SQL. It has to be included in our virtual environment where libraries are residing. You can see we've added it, SQL. So come back here at our notebook window. Reload the line again, the cell again. You can see our error is gone, but it says that the SQL module is not an IPython extension. Okay, let's try to go further. Of course, we've installed the SQL. So let's see whether it will give us another error while we are running this. Of course, now we are loading the SQL as a what? As a syntax from the magic commands. So run that line again, the second line from the load extension, which is SQL Postgres blah blah blah. Now let's run it. Now there's a usage error line magic function SQL not found. So it means that the SQL module is not a Python extension. Of course, we'll find out why. So guys, basically we are going through our notebook despite those little errors. Now I'll just show you. We'll find out why the SQL is not loading up. Now look at how it is being loaded here. SQL. Now we load the SQL syntax or the magic function, which is SQL, in as much as it is saying that it's not a Python library extension. Now we give query is equal to select. For those of you who knows SQL syntaxes, you understand this point now much better. We have SQL select all from open weather API table. Now we are selecting everything from this schema. Now this is our schema. Open weather is our schema. Now we can see open weather API TBL. Now this is what we'll do, guys. Let me just come to my my start button. There is this application called dbeaver. Now dbeaver will help us. Dbeaver. Where has it gone? Wow. Dbeaver. Yes, here it is. Now load that. Here you can see it is starting. Load that application. Now dbeaver will help us create this schema called open weather, and it will also help us create a table. Of course, we can create a table using a command, SQL syntaxes or commands. But now let dbeaver load, and then we see on how it is. So you can see this cell here, cell number 9, noted 9. Now we created we created a line of a code that we query from our schema under table. Now, after querying from our schema under that table, of course, we assume that we had connected our database. Now, we call now the data frame from our what? From our Python, command. Now, df simply means the data frame. Now, we want to return a data frame now from the database using Python. Now, Python is now going to give us now the extraction of the data frame from the database. Now we can see, you can say df is equal to pd. Now you can remember up there we called a library called pandas as pd. Now pd now is going to give us now the read SQL function. Now we use the read SQL function. There are several functions in Notebook where we can read data from. We have read SQL, we have read CSV, we have read JSON, then we have read Excel. So those are some of the functions that we can use to come up with the data frame from various sources using while we are using a Jupyter Notebook. Now we call the read SQL method co-function. We give it a method. Now the query method is here. Now this query here, we call it here, and then we call the create engine. Now the create engine is still workable here, whereby we are still on the pipeline of the what? Of the connecting string of the PostgreSQL, and then finally we give now the head. Now we display the data frame. Now we say df.head. Head simply means that function simply give us now the first what? The first four values, 4 rows. Sorry, the first 4 rows of our data frame. You can see it has given a connection, Postgres driver SQL. Then we have the blah 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 connection. So every time you run a command for data extraction from an SQL database, it will show you the connections. Now, it means that your connection will not work. If your connection is wrong, you will not be able to see what? To see the data frame. So this is how we connect a database using our notebook and using our libraries like SQL Alchemy and Scikop-G2. Those are 2 libraries that notebook will need so that you connect to an external database like Postgres. So you can see data is being loaded, data is being manipulated. You can see df.tail. Now we are seeing the 4 last rows of our database. We can see, we want to see the shape of our data frame. So this is the shape of our data frame, df.shape. Now we have 56 rows and 30 columns. Then we also have df.info. Now it gives us all the information about our what? About our data frame. Now you can see we have the ID, main, description, icon, base, visibility. These are the columns that we have, and they are what? The columns and their data types. Now we have this float 64. That is a numerical data, if I may say so, for those of us who are machine learners. Then we have object. Object simply means that those are categorical variables. Yes, and then we have numerical variables as being labeled as float 64. We also have a numerical variable being labeled as integer 64. So there is a little bit of discrepancy in numerical variables. Yeah, so you can either know which type of data type is that you're having. So guys, as we continue, you can see our data is being manipulated so well. We have df duplicated, tells you that we want to see whether there is a duplication in our in our data frame, whether there is a repetition, there is some duplication. Oh, there's something I skipped here. Here is saying that check null values. Now we want to check whether our data frame has a null value. So we say df.isNull function dot sum function. Now it now gives us what? 0. Now our data frame and our column has returned a 0 what? A 0 values, meaning our data frame there is no missing values. All the values are there. So if it could have given us a 1 value here, either on, let me say this maybe cloud all has 1, it means that that column has 1 value missing. Yes, or a null or value, or not a number value. Then we have now this. I don't know whether I can go deeper into this, but I was just showing you on how we can connect our notebook to a database, Postgres. I'm using Postgres. Now look at dbeaver before I finish. Look at dbeaver. This is my dbeaver window. So dbeaver window, we have a connection here. You can see I gave a connection here. So for us to give that connection for weather DB, we need to create a database. So in dbeaver, you just right click, or you just give a drop down menu for databases, or you just come to databases here, and then you can see there's a new connection. There's a new from JDBC URL. So here you need to just right click, and then you say I don't know whether this one has create. Let me push this up a bit. Right there. Good. So create new database. Yeah, there it is. Create new database. So our database here we, let me push you back a bit again. Our database here, weather DB. So come back to dbeaver, give this name. Sorry for that silence. I was talking to someone. Sorry. So you give it a name, weather underscore DB. Owner is, now we have to give it an owner. The database owner is Alando. That is my database. You can also give it your own user. Suppose you had created a user in Postgres database in your machine. So you just click OK. So create new database with and there's an error. Cannot create a database when multi-database mode is disabled. Enable show all database option in the connection settings. Oh, okay. Let's do this. So we cannot create a database because showing all databases doing somehow it is disabled. So we go to they have told us here, we go to connection. Let me try disconnect all. Let me try disconnect all. This database is okay. This YouTube DB is okay. Okay, let me try and create another one. Create a new database. Let me see weather DB. Oh, the same problem. So we need to go to connection settings. So we need to go to connection settings so that we enable show all databases. Connection settings. So we enable all databases so that we create. Anyway, I'll work on it. But in your dbeaver, where you've created your database and you've performed all the configuration, make sure that show all databases is enabled. I do not have time because I'm using a limited recorder. That's why I'm rushing. So sorry for that. That is my daughter. Sorry for that. So I'm going to enable that shortly, but maybe in our next video I'll show you how now to enable it. So that's how you create a database. You after creating a database, you create a schema. So while creating schemas, you come to schemas, you right click, and then you create a new schema. Now coming here, our schema was open weather. That is our schema. So in dbeaver or in any other database that you are using, you cannot create a database, or you cannot manipulate or work on a database without putting a schema. Now a schema is just a blueprint of your data source where you are working with. So this is where you type your schema like open weather. Now it's just a name under database called YouTube. Suppose I want to give maybe under this database YouTube, I want to give a schema like I say that my videos. Good, yes, that will work. My videos. So that is the name of my schema, and my database is YouTube. So that's basically it's just showing you how to create a database, not a database, really a schema on your database. So guys, thank you so much. We learn more and more about machine learning, artificial intelligence. We will also work on generative AI. I'll come up with more and more videos so that we can see on what to do. If anybody has a question, you can comment or you can ask directly. I'll share my number in the chat and in the post. So thank you so much, fellow guys, fellow tech people, and may God bless you. Cool. Thank you.